Hello, hello. We are, first time me starting this off, so we are waiting on Leah. Hold tight. There she is. You got to click a button, Leah. Hold tight. We got to get our very special guest on. There she is. The Phenom.
Oh boy, here we go.
The Phenom is in the house.
Here we go.
We should name the podcast world record holder and just a regular guy.
Absolutely.
At least for once, I have the biggest total on this thing for at least a couple weeks.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
I had to get you on before you out-total me.
Oh, is that what this is about?
That's the
So
whole
you can
deal.
just drag me on Instagram Live.
Everybody, I just want you to know that I have a bigger total than Leah. For now.
What's up?
What's up? Christ, my phone's blowing up. My phone's blowing up all day.
All day.
Yeah. So what do you want to talk about? Yeah, that's right, Jimmy. Kate, I'm sorry.
Kate.
I'm gonna get mine while I can.
Let's talk about some.
All right, so Chris is on vacation. Believe it or not, he's been busy on vacation, but we're not going to drag him on here. So me and Lee are going to keep it rolling. Episode 20-something of State of the Union, sponsored by the Go Hard Barbell and Bergen County Barbell and Wicked Wolf Beard Co. Thank our sponsors. We have the ever strong Leah Reichman here. So we're going to talk about speed squats the whole episode because Chris hates speed squatting. So we're just going to talk about the importance of speed work.
I think that's a really good idea. We should definitely talk about the importance of.
We're not allowed to
Chris
talk about
hates.
speed squatting when Chris is here. So we're just going to talk about speed squatting only.
I'm here for it.
What's up? What's up, boy? Chris is going to get fired up and try and get in here. We're not going to let him.
I hope he's watching right now. So speed squats.
Yet.
I
do have two questions. I do have two questions for you. So let's. Yeah. And I don't want to. I know you're a busy lady, so I don't want to keep you on too long. So we'll talk about speed squats first, and then we'll get to questions. Are you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay.
So Leah and I are big speed squat fans.
Yeah, we have this conversation a lot. We have this conversation a lot about, to squat or not to speed squat. And I think you may remember the numbers a little better than I do. We talked about how many all-time world record holder squatters do speed squats versus how many who do not. And do you remember the numbers off the top?
It was on the women's side. It was like 60%. It was over 60%, and then the men's side. Well, no, it was over 70%. And the men's side, it was like over 50. I think closer to 60. So
yes. So I mean, typically people who so I think what the point that people are not understanding with speed squats is what they are used for. You're moving some maximal weight, maximally, like a max effort movement. So you're moving that optimally, and that essentially generates more power.
That's right.
And I think
Aaron's on here, so we're gonna get in trouble now.
Aaron, don't tell Chris. So I mean, what is your input about speed squatting?
I mean, so my opinion of it is that I think that people I think that there's a misconception.
I can't hear you, Andy. Hey, you're gonna have to say all of that over again
All right.
because I didn't hear
Yeah,
any of it.
okay. Yeah. So the positive, I think a misconception of people speed squatting, and it's something that I see a lot of issues with, is that they do it too light, and it's it's like Louis always says, you can't throw a wiffle ball through a window. You know what I mean? It's got to be heavy enough to make change. It's the hardest thing that I do every week.
Right.
Unequivocally. That's right. That's right, Lloyd. I think that it's got to be, mine's usually 50, 55, and 60 plus at least 30% band or chain. Most of the time it's closer to 33% because it's just the way that it plays out with my stuff. The rest periods are really short. I try and keep my form really tight, and it's the volume that I feel like brings up my squat form. It's the volume that I think brings up my muscles, and again, it's the hardest thing I do every week. I can certainly understand, there's a lot of guys who have gone away from it. Like we talk about, like Hoff may not be a speed squatter, but he has speed squatted probably more than 99% of the people in powerlifting. He
Absolutely.
might run his a little bit different. I know that the night crew kind of run a little bit different squat cycle where they're not maxing out on squat every week. They're kind of moving bars around like that. So it's different, but all of those guys trained at Westside, and all of those guys speed squatted at some point when they're at Westside until they found something different. So I think people that speed squat and don't know what they're doing and going too light, then that's worthless. I think people who speed squat with terrible form is worthless. I think people who don't speed squat close to competition standards is not of value to them. And then I also think that people that speed squat too heavy is a lack of value to them. Like there's a specific wheelhouse that it gets in there that I think is where the work gets done. And I think most people are going to benefit from moderately heavy weights for moderate to high volume. Like that's where I think changes get made, training wise. And a big thing I think is to get you in shape, and you got to be in shape to lift big weights. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I agree with you. I think that the dynamic lower days are definitely my hardest training days. The ones where I'm absolutely, putting in more time. It's the longest training day too. And I think that it has been very beneficial to A, conditioning, B, to build my squat, and C, it makes me more explosive and powerful. Training conjugate since forever, like since I started powerlifting. I've always done speed squats, and just to look back from a year ago or 2 years ago, how more explosive I am, how I am able to push heavier weight at faster speeds. Yeah, you get stronger, but I think that there is something to say about the number of people who have all-time world records who do speed squats. I also think that people may be confused about what exactly speed squats are. Like you said before, if you are doing 8 to 10 reps of 3 squats, or 8 to 10 sets of 3 squats, 2 or 3 squats at a sub-maximal weight and you're trying to move it fast, that's a speed squat.
Yes.
That's a speed squat. You know, so you see people who want to say, hey,
yeah, you can call it whatever you want, but if you're taking something in the 65 to 90 range and you're doing it for multiple sets and you're trying to move the bar, like you can call it compensatory acceleration, you can call it volume work, but if it's moderate weight with short rest and you're trying to move the bar as fast as possible, which if you're squatting, benching, deadlifting, you should be trying to move the bar as fast as possible. The only thing that slows the bar down is the weight on the bar.
Absolutely.
And you can call it whatever you want, but it's the same concept.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And, you know, same with speed bench and speed pulls. Call it whatever you want. Same concept. You're trying to move sub-maximal weight optimally. You want to move it fast. You want to move it correctly. Dan, what do you want to talk about, Dan? But no, I think that is a misunderstanding. What
pre-workout? Dan, I got my pre-workout right here. Hold on, buddy.
Just black for you, coffee man. And Adderall.
Here's my pre-workout, Dan, and my intro workout right here for you.
No, it was, to be honest. We get so much done. Oh, that's funny.
Oh,
man. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely an interesting topic, and I know everybody feels a certain type of way about it. But,
well, I also think that like, I think that like, I don't even know if I should have an opinion because, like, I mean, I guess I squatted 900 pounds, so I guess you get to have an opinion when you squat 900 pounds, maybe. But like, when I didn't have a big squat, I just shut up and did what Louis told me to do because Louis knows more than I do. You know what I mean? And like some of these people, I just like if Chris says like, I'm not going to speed squat, it doesn't do me any good. Like, okay, man, well, you just squat 1160 at 242. So whatever works for you, man.
Yeah.
Good on you. But like,
you do have like some genetic freaks like Chris who we get it. Like you don't really.
If you're fast in general, then yeah, then you need to work on what you need to work on. You know what I mean? And that's, you know, and it's also like, you got to forget, there's a huge base between what somebody, you know, like Chris, I know more about what Chris does than I do most people because he's my best friend. But like, he's done a lot of lower intensity, high volume squats for 10 years. You know what I mean? He's a college athlete. Like, he may not need it. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I do, you know, and believe it or not, when I moved over to the conjugate training, Chris was the one who's like, yeah, I think some speed box squats would do good for you. I remember that conversation. He doesn't admit that, and then I turned into Captain Conjugate, and, you know, now he tells me to stop speed squatting. I tell him I can't hear what he says. But, you know, I think that people miss out on what it is and what the goal of it is. And I will tell you that if you're not a high level lifter, if you're not a very, very, very high level lifter, and you can't recover from 24 squats at give or take 70% on a Friday, and then do 9 reps of something heavy on Monday, then you're out of shape. And that's a problem that needs to be addressed. And a good way to address that would be speed squats. I mean, that's, and one of the biggest things that I've noticed with my clients is like, they will tell me when they trained it the other way versus conjugate, when it was deadlift time, they're sucking wind. And now when you force them to get in shape and then lift weights, they're like ready to deadlift. And then they do then they're able to do a really, you know, to have a better deadlift and close out the meet better and feel more confident at the end of the meet because they're in shape. Because most people just stand around, play with their phone, don't do any accessory work, you know, take an hour to squat and then leave. 24 squats is 2 sessions. Well, I'm certainly not going to argue with you, Dan.
Yeah, Dan, I you're one of those guys. I'm not going to.
You're talking to the guy who. $5, 765, then takes his puts a belt on, takes his dip out, and then puts regular lifting shoes on, and then squats 1,000 and then leaves. Little bit different type of.
He's built different.
Yeah, and like, this is the other thing too, is like, you need to dedicate yourself to something basic and get good at basic stuff before you just start going off. Like, if you're trying, and I'm not hating on Chris, like if you train with Chris, like Chris knows what he's doing and he knows how to program you very, very well without having speed squats as a part of your program. He also does things differently with his lifters on the way that they work up and the way that they go through stuff. And I know that because I've had him coach me before, and they're getting volume on the way up to their max effort stuff. And that's how, and that works very well for his lifters because his lifters do really well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, I think a lot of people, if you're coaching yourself or you're looking, for something to kind of a template to follow, I think that speed squat, the West Side template and utilizing that is going to benefit most, if not everybody, especially that are novices or beginners, and maybe if you're at the top level of the sport, hey, you kind of know you've learned how to roll with the punches and doctor your programming as best you can. And that's completely understandable because nobody's going to be doing, like Dave Hoff's not doing the same shit he was doing 5 years ago. Certainly not doing the same stuff he was doing when he was 21 years old, but the notion that you need to be doing what Dave Hoff's doing right now or what Chris Delafov's doing right now or what Leah's doing or what Dan's doing, like you need to be doing what they were doing when they were squatting 600 pounds because if you're squatting 400 pounds, not what they're doing to squat. So that's my thought. You have any closing thoughts on the speed squatting and speed deadlifting?
I mean, even to working with high schoolers and coaching these high schoolers, like they are benefiting from doing these speed squats. So you can start at literally any level with any athlete and, to have them do dynamic effort type of work, they're jumping higher, they're squatting more weight.
It's scalable, it's scalable.
Yeah, exactly.
And
exactly.
You can have a 600-pound squatter, a 900-pound squatter, and a 400-pound squatter doing the same program.
That's a really good question, Dan. I have never tried a pause squat in gear, only raw. But I do see a benefit with them for raw, especially if people have trouble maintaining position in the hole or coming out of the hole. So I definitely think that pause squats are very beneficial as well, especially not this bullshit and I'm squatting actual pause. What are you thinking, like 5 seconds?
People call a squat, they don't bounce a pause squat. Like, yeah, I paused it. Like, no, you just didn't bounce it. That's not a pause squat. But to answer your question, Dan, I rotate 3-week cycles with my lifters that are raw, and 1 3-week cycle they'll do box squats. The next 3-week cycle they'll do pulse squats. Similar percentages. I generally won't do pulse squats against AR, and it'll be a little bit heavier, and it won't be 12 doubles. It might be 5 triples because I feel like the time under tension is higher if they're actually pausing, and I want them to pause correctly. So I'm going to shave about call it 30% off because they're going to be spending a little bit more time in the hole, whereas instead of like down and up on the box, it's going to be down pause, up pause, like that type of deal. But I add that in, and I kind of got that from, talking to some different people about what people do differently for raw people versus in gear, because I think it's good for them. And one thing to touch on, you talked about the high school students, that time under the bar is really beneficial. You know what I mean? And like for somebody transitioning to gear, like that time in your briefs, like it's going to suck. If you don't know how to squat in briefs, like you're going to have to learn. It's going to suck. And like, but you need to be comfortable in briefs for a long period of time under tension. Like you want to get good at it, you can't be scared of pushing into pressure if you want to be, if you're going to be any good in gear, you got to be comfortable being, or at least tolerant being under pressure. And a great way to do that is to get yourself really tired and then having to push into your briefs and actually rely on them when you're tired as shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've
actually started training with someone who's new to gear, but not new to lifting in general. And it is that we're getting used to that pressure. And feeling that, and you kind of forget about it as the time goes on. The more we're in our,
I don't even think
briefs.
about it anymore. But I can remember like, God damn, I got to put my briefs on. How bad is this going to feel? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can remember like pulling them off and looking at my legs and going like, oh my God. Now I'm like, I don't even think of it.
Yeah.
Like I don't even notice.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
people.
But no, I do think that.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
was gonna say, but no, I do think that pause squats, especially for raw lifters, are very beneficial.
Yeah. Love you too, Dan. You're
Um,
the man.
yeah.
Raw
So,
is the law. We'll get
um,
Dan on here. Dan loves the pressure of powerlifting gear.
advice on opening up shoulders to get under a straight bar. Whew! Kate, have you seen how wide my hands are? I'm touching the collars. So I'm probably not. I definitely struggle with that, but I do know someone who can help you, and her name is Sarah Buckley. She has helped
Yeah.
a lot of issues that I have, that Andy has, that Chris has had, and she's very good with mobility and helping and helping to work through some of those
Sarah
issues that
will
Jim
cure
may
what
have.
ails you. Sarah will
Will
cure what
fix
ails you.
anything.
And there's a
Um,
video that I use that Donnie Thompson has, and it's a self wrap like his bow tie, and then a shoulder routine that I go through when I use the straight bar to warm my shoulders up, and it helps a great deal too. It's like a moving warm up. It's
yeah,
really good. Kate, if you shoot me a message, I'll send you the video. He's got it on his IG, but it's like a wrap a knee wrap around your shoulder and then do some different like band pull apart type movements, external rotation type movements to force some blood in there and warm that
yeah,
area up. And before I got with Sarah, that helped a lot. It's something that I don't do as specific because Sarah stuff has me feeling better, but I will go through like a 2 or 3 minute routine with it prior to squatting with the straight bar, and it helped me a lot. But
yeah,
Sarah like went from pretty bad pain to basically no pain. Like I have a little bit of elbow pain, but I squatted 975 on Sunday, so that's to be expected. So
ooh, oh, 975.
it was high, two high chains. I'm not, but I did
uh,
have it on my back though for like 2 seconds. All right, so I had 2 questions, and we'll get to them pretty briefly. One was how have you dealt with negativity with regards to females in the sport of powerlifting, like internet negativity? Chris and I have talked about this a lot, but I think it'd be good to have a female kind of touch on that a little bit.
I think that that's a really good question, because not just on the internet, even in general, in real life, people, just like, I know that they're trying to like not make it a big deal, but people do. But the negativity on the internet, I mean, honestly, as long as you were lifting and you were happy and you were enjoying yourself and you were doing what you want to do, like that should be the only thing that matters, right? Like, I don't really, unless it's like someone I care about or someone that I, respect their opinion, I don't really care what other people say or think about me, or, the lifting that I do. Even my parents for the longest time, they just didn't understand that at all. So,
Yeah, mine don't either.
um, I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yep, I got you.
So they didn't understand it at all until, they actually went to a powerlifting meet, and they're like, okay, like this is really cool. But when it comes to random strangers on the internet, like, who cares? Troll them back. If they try to say stuff to you, who cares? Like, I would just, either let it go and don't let it bother you, turn your comment section off, or, put them back. But as long as you're happy, that's bother you.
Yeah, and I think part of the issue with people is
Cindy, are you there?
can you hear? Yeah, can you hear me? We lost Leah.
Can you, am I still
Yep,
there?
I got you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So I think part of the issue too is just social media has made people so much more aware and comparison driven
Mm-hmm.
and worried. Like it's given people a platform to give their opinion, and it's made people so much more aware of other people's opinions, specifically women in the gym. And I think you need to remember kind of why you started. I'm not a female, but I think you need to remember why you started, and like you started for yourself. You didn't start to impress anybody else, and this is something that you want to do because it makes you happy and it makes you feel good. And if you're not powerlifting
Exactly.
because it makes you happy and makes you feel good, then go do something that does make you happy, because life's too short. And if you are, then don't care about what somebody else has to say about what you choose to do, and what have you. And at the end of the day, like, the people that are making these comments they're not the type of people that you would hang out with anyways. There he is. The people that make these
Hi,
type of
Chris.
comments are not, you're just in time, man. We're just talking about how wonderful you are. The people who make these type of comments are not the people that, they're not the people that are going to cry at your funeral. They're not the people that are going to, that you're going to call when you're upset. They're not going to people that's going to celebrate your accomplishments. So like, if that's the case, then my suggestion would be just don't worry about what they have to say, because
Right.
that's the bogus portion of this whole deal. And I'd be remiss not to say, like, if you're the type of person that comments negatively on anybody's lifting, specifically women, you should give your phone up. Go do something else with your life, because that's not, like,
Right.
nobody cares what you think. You know what I mean? And that's just that's always kind of been my opinion of the whole deal. Like, I just don't think I don't think people really care about their opinion. I don't care what people think about me, because lifting weights makes me happy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've had,
Exactly. As long
and
as you're
I'm not a
doing whatever
female,
makes you happy.
but like, I have people tell me, like, why do you want to be that big? Like, what are you going to
Oh
do when
yeah.
this happens? Why do you care that much about lifting weights? And I'm just like, why do you eat McDonald's 3 times a day? Like, what's it to you, man? Like, I don't know, man. Like, this makes me happy, and it keeps me out of trouble, and it gives me something to focus on. So, like, what's it to you? You know what I mean? Like,
Makes you happy, and it makes you harder to
yeah,
kill.
that's right. Yeah, it makes me not want to, like, put my hands on everybody I encounter on a regular basis, because it gives me a place to push my aggression and anger and stuff like that. So, I mean, I don't, you can't. The one thing I will tell you, though, is if you get into a sport like powerlifting, and I've been chastised by the likes of Garrett Fear by calling it a niche sport, but at the end of the day, this is a niche sport. It's a fringe sport. It's not a mainstream sport. And if you expect for people to understand this, then like, you don't get into this sport for acceptance. You get into this sport because it's something you want to do. So if you
Exactly.
expect somebody, what's that?
No, I'm agreeing with you. I
Yeah. You
agree.
don't, and
Exactly.
if you're expecting, like, you can't. It's like, you can't expect people, just the average person down the street, to get this. They can't expect the average person to understand this. You know what I mean? And this, at the end of the day, no matter how mainstream we want to make it, it doesn't make sense to the average person walking around the streets. So you can't expect them to understand the who, what, where, when, why of the things that you do in the gym. You know, and
Exactly.
especially something happened to society where men just got real comfortable telling women how they're supposed to look and act. So I don't really, I don't.
Something happened there.
Yeah, they don't exist just for us to tell them what to do. So I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Yeah. No, but
and
strange. I was gonna say, strangers on the internet, like like they shouldn't
no
affect
space,
you at all.
no space in your head.
Nope.
They should have
None.
no space in your head. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And then the other question was, obviously, being a coach and being a lifter, and now you're doing you do the powerlifting coaching thing, and now you're doing the high school athlete thing. And I know you've programmed for yourself, and you've been around some of the, I mean, not some of the greatest minds in powerlifting. What is the differences that Chris and I have talked about this, so I'll let you roll with this a little bit, but what are some of the differences that you do with beginners, novices, high level lifters, and then things that you may change for men versus women, if anything?
Typically, for beginners, a lot of them do benefit from like some periodization work. You need to build a base, and to throw them into some type of conjugate style of training, it's hard to do, especially like you said, a beginner. If you don't really have an athletic background, it is very, very hard to do. So I do think that periodization is very beneficial for newbie raw lifters. And just like volume work in general, like we talked about pause squats and everything like that. But I also think that it is very important to make sure that you are addressing lifters' weaknesses. You know, you have to have an eye to be able to point out exactly where are you strong, and where are you. Hi, Becca.
Is
Thank
that Becca? Is that for me?
you. Um,
Seriously.
and, Andy wishes it was. um, but you have to be able to point out a lifter's weaknesses and their strengths. And that is more, you know, physically and mentally. You know,
Yeah.
what can you make them do to help them get stronger? Hi, Kenzie.
What's up,
Um,
Kenzie?
so you have to have an eye for that. You have to be able to address those in the appropriate way as well, by programming exercises, not just the same thing. You know, oh, you have weak hamstrings, let's do some prone hamstring curls. No, like, you need to challenge yourself, and you need to challenge the clients to do things that they haven't done before to build that hamstring strength. um, for men versus women, honestly, not a lot. I don't really change a whole lot. The type of stuff that I do for powerlifting is more individualized for people. Um, so not a whole lot there. I do notice that the women are more prone to do the conditioning work
I think
and
women.
to,
I think women are more prone to do the program. Like,
yes,
I think they're
and
more prone to just, like, if you put it on the sheet of paper, they do it.
yeah. But otherwise, I don't really change a whole lot for men and women when it comes to their programming. Do you?
Yeah. No. I try to be a little bit. The one thing I notice, and we've talked about this, and I'm gonna butcher this, so I'm not even gonna go that way. But, like, I do know with regards to women's cycle that there are times, like, I never understood it until, like, people explained it to me, and there are times when, like, women are stronger. There are times when they're weaker. So I try to be a little bit more aware of, like, when I'm with them specifically, um, to, like, all right, you're really strong today. Let's not go crazy with this PR. Like, we may be trying to chip your PR or get a 10-pound PR, but let's not get a 40-pound PR, because we might hit this again, and you might not, because women have times where they can be really, really strong, and then there's times where they're not as strong based on their cycle.
Yes.
So I think you need to be a little bit more careful with that in general. And kind of have a governor on them with regards to weight on the bar at times.
Mm-hmm.
Because what you can do is then in turn they get, the PR might be 200, and then 1 week, then 1 week they come in, they're super strong, they do 230, and then they come in 2 months later and they do 225, and they're discouraged. Whereas if you just would have taken 215, which is a 15-pound PR, which is a 7.5% PR, which for you is 70 pounds, for me is 70 pounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A 7.5% PR, you know, and then the next time they come in, they don't have a great day. They do 220, but they're still moving, whereas they feel like they take a step back. So I think that's something that needs to be, I do notice that women are better with reps than men are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I've always kind of known. But I don't change a ton as far as programming is concerned. I think one thing you touched on that I do want to just maybe touch on a little bit is, like, I've talked at length at the beginners. Anybody can watch a beginner and go, like, oh man, your knees come in when you squat, or this happens when you don't. And it's like, well, of course, like, you don't need to specifically do anything with that. That's going to get fixed over time because they're just weak. You know what I mean? Like, the weakness
Mm-hmm.
is everything. And I think at
Yep.
times, like, people get way too specific with beginners, where, like, you're doing them a disservice. It's like same thing with, like,
Mm-hmm.
bands and chains, and like a crazy amount of specialty bars and all this huge exercise pool, that I don't think you need as a beginner. You need time under the bar with basic stuff, because,
Exactly.
like, when you need that safety bar with front pulling bands against chains, that might be what you need to get from 850 to 900. You don't need that to get from 150 to 200. You just need to train,
Exactly.
and you need to
Mm-hmm.
learn how to train 4 days a week, and you need to learn how to complete a training session in the right amount of time, and monitor your rest periods, and do your squats correctly, and stay focused. Like, that's where a beginner's focus needs to be, not on, like, can I conjugate this exercise as much as possible because I saw, Leah do this, or I saw Chris with 1,000 pounds of chains on the bar, squat 600 pounds. Like, you don't need that. That's what he needs to prepare his central nervous system to squat, something crazy. That might not be what you need. You know what I mean? So I think people get way too specific with beginners, or way too much variety when they may just need like pretty basic. I still think exercise rotation is important for beginners, but the pool doesn't need to be as big. You know what I mean? Like, for me, when I get lifters, like, I want to teach them how to box squat right. So we're going to spend a lot of time on the box, and they're going to learn how to box squat. And then when it gets time to go to a meet, like, okay, then we're going to learn how to free squat.
Yep.
And then we're going to learn, and we're going to learn how to utilize these special bars to bring the straight bar up, because that's that's what we're trying to do.
Yep.
So I think that's something that happens, and the weak point stuff is huge. You know what I mean? Having an eye for where people are weak, but most beginners are weak everywhere, and they're just going to benefit from basic stuff, in my opinion.
Basic stuff. I agree. Yeah, I agree with all of that, actually. You don't want to throw too much at them all at once, but honestly, a good coach has an eye for those weaknesses, and they are aware of that. And to be able to teach someone how to be aware and how to use their body is, I think, a very giving cues is
100%.
is
100%.
something
like,
that
this is what you
good
need to be
coach
feeling.
needs.
This is what this bar is going to make you feel. This is what you need to feel in order to make this bar work for you and also get carryover.
Yes.
Like, the safety bar sucks. This is how you turn your lats on with the safety bar. So when you get the straight bar on your back, your lats are going to be automatically turned on, which you might have taken a year to teach them how to do that.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, the reason you feel this with the safety bar is because you can't turn your lats on because you're not wedging yourself under the bar. So you need to actively turn your lats on this way, and then and that's what we're using the bars for. And I think a lot of times people miss out on that. And Bobby and I on the podcast the other day, we talked about being a professional a lot, and like part of being a professional is learning how to get through training sessions and learning how to do the things that you need to be able to do to be really good at this sport. You've been around a lot more high level lifters than I do, but they train like professionals. You know what I mean? I'm sure they do their accessory work. They're not thumbing through Instagram for an hour and a half, and you guys train as a group and they all get through their training. You know what I mean? They do everything that they're supposed to do. And that's what you need. That's a gift that, so if you're working with beginners, like, give them something that they can digest and teach them how to do that, and teach them how to train and teach them how to do those things, because that's what's going to make the biggest impact on them today, and then get them prepared for whatever variation you want to throw at them in the future, in my opinion.
Exactly.
So.
No, I agree with that.
Any other closing remarks?
No, sir.
You have brought some interesting viewership here. I see a lot of big names on here. Everybody loves Lee.
Are you fangirling?
No, not me. We've been friends for too long. Everybody's fired up though. So,
yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. I know Chris is coming down, I think, for the storm meet, so we'll have to do him and I on one side and you on the other one. I know you love talking to your phone in the car. I know it's your favorite thing to do.
Yeah, definitely.
Socializing.
Yes. Cool. I mean.
Oh, so how are you feel? Go ahead.
I'll just say, when does the storm meet?
Memorial Day. So we compete on Saturday, and then the raw stuff's on Sunday.
Okay, cool.
So, and you're exactly what? You're inside of 2 weeks?
Yeah, inside of 2 weeks now, week and a half. Hi.
And how do we feel?
I feel good. I mean, body, obviously ready for a little deload. Just doing some recovery stuff.
You got a floor press this week, and that's it, right?
Floor press yesterday.
Okay.
I switched some of my training days around to fit my schedule a little better. But yeah, no,
work
I
is
feel good.
done. I mean, you got like some recovery, lower accessory stuff, and then just like whatever the cleanup you do in Circumax.
Yep.
This weekend.
Exactly. So.
Yep. All right.
Cool.
Good for you.
I'm excited though.
Yeah.
It should be a really good meet.
I know you've been a little tight-lipped about what everything's going to be, so I'm not going to. I'll find out like everybody else, I guess.
I just don't want to bomb out.
No. You want to be permitted to bench and deadlift.
Yes.
How is are you feeling good about the bench at least? I know you're kind of moving shirts around. You feeling good about it?
Yeah,
okay.
A lot better. A lot better. in almost every lift now. I mean, I have switched my deadlift stance as well,
Yeah.
just to work around some issues that I've been
Yeah.
having. But I mean, maybe I'm a conventional puller and I didn't know it.
Well, we'll find out.
We're about to find out.
We're gonna hopefully you'll have to pull something good. Something. I mean, I know you're gonna pull something more than respectable, but hopefully you'll get a chance to pull something to do your thing.
Yeah.
So
that's the goal.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. We'll do it again.
Thanks for having me.
Obviously, we wish you the best of luck. We'll, I know the world will be watching, but Chris and I will be watching. Better be getting whoever's going to be there. I need updates. So
updates, yeah.
Yeah. So
I'll
who's
probably get Connor on that.
Yeah, tell Connor I need updates. Like
I can do that.
by the attempt updates. So all right, dude. I appreciate you. We're gonna go bench.
Sounds good. Have a great day.
Thank you guys. We'll see you guys next week. Chris and I will be back.
Thank you.
See you later.
See ya.
Bye.